Good evening and welcome to Success in the City. My name is Helen Webster and I'm with the lovely
Sandra Scott, and our fabulous guest today is accomplished author already,
John Bullock.
Welcome.
Thank you, John, for joining us. Thank you for joining us. So some people might already recognise John because this is John's second visit because we love him that much. So he's back on again. And we're going to find out loads more about why we've asked him to come back on again. But first, we do a little shout out to the kids, any little people who've done amazing things or lovely things. And now they're all back in school, we want you to send, if they've got a certificate or if they've done anything cool in school, anything like that. And then we'll give them a little shout out, but we'll also promote them on our page as well to say that all the little people are doing cool as well. So, San, have you got any little people?
Oh, yes. So I went to help a little munchkin who's in my family called Ethan, and he worked really hard. He's only 6, and it's a long time for them. And I said to my cousin, I said, I'll come for an hour and see how he is. And then I thought, why did I say that? He's only 6. We'll just do half an hour. That was silly of me. Anyway, we did an hour, and he wanted to carry on and everything, and he was just absolutely brilliant. And I was made up with him, and he did really well.
Oh, brilliant.
Shout out to Ethan Wild.
Well done, Eth. Well done. John, have you got any little people you want to shout out to?
Well, the one that comes to mind straight away is my kids, but unfortunately my son is a lot taller than me, and my daughter knows a lot more than me. So
yeah,
so they're that much older now. I mean, I'm getting on as well. So I look at the age of my kids, like they're both flying and they're doing great, and I'm tremendously proud of them. And I sincerely mean that, and I realise how fortunate I am to be able to say that. They're both hard workers and they're both really dedicated to what they're doing now.
Brilliant. Lovely. How lovely is that? Well done. Well done to them. I'm going to give a shout out to Scarlett. So the day before they all went back to school, Joe, who's been our guest before from Autism in Motion, her and her daughter, Scarlett, they went to Chilwell Woods with the dog. So they've got a dog called Jeannie. And Jeannie's not very keen on other dogs. She's only got one eye, so I think she might be a little bit nervous, having other dogs and things around her. And Scarlett was taking her over to the dogs and saying, right, come on, Jeannie, be polite, be kind, say hello, introduce yourself. And she was like all dead cute with the dog. So big shout out to Scarlett for training Jeannie in such a lovely way. So there you go. Success this week for you personally. What's been good this week for you?
Is that a question to me or is that for Sandra?
Should we go John first this time?
Well, I suppose of late I've done the Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi sort of course. I've been involved in their mindset, and it's been a real revelation with regards to how they put things together. And so I think, if anything, I possibly feel a little bit overwhelmed because there's not much to do. And there's the realization there's a lot that I haven't done. And the way that sort of works on your mind, you think, well, I must get this done. Especially when you work for yourself. You sort of pile these things up, But yeah, a real revelation. And I'm really happy. I as they would say, I'm all in.
Brilliant.
Well, that's very John. Well done.
You surprised me saying that because I know you're all about mindset, John, aren't you? Which we're going to talk about in a bit, though. Yeah. So
absolutely. I think it's important to say that, because when you leave yourself and you move outside your comfort zone, or you do something a little bit differently, it doesn't matter. For instance, I have such a background in years in my sport, but if you took me to different sports, if you said to me, John, we're going to play golf now, my mindset would be all over the place because I know I'm awful at golf, and I'd be thinking I'll be slowing everybody down, So, it just goes to show there's a lot to be said about committing to something and practice, because I think that does give you confidence.
100%, 100%, yeah. Very interesting, and we'll get into a little bit more about that when we're talking more about your book and stuff like that. San, what's your success?
Well, I've had a few successes, and mine are usually pathetic, aren't they? But they're all successes. So main one, I think we're going to talk about the end because we've got a new sort of slot for this year, haven't we? At the end of the show, so I'm going to talk about that. But something quite funny has happened. So My mum does all these surveys and stuff like that, right? So she sent me this link and she goes, if you say you'll try this, you might get some. So I was like, oh yeah, whatever, mum, just tick it, blah, blah, blah. So it said your parcels, and I thought everything came for Christmas. What parcels? So this giant box arrives. For people who are listening on the podcast, I'm holding up a giant box. Inside the box was this giant box.
Wow, that's a massive. So like the size of what's it the size of?
It's like what, a bit bigger than you get printer paper in.
Yeah.
Okay. In the box, there was all wrapping and stuff, and then there's fairy fabric softener, fairy 15, which are made up about 15 washes, biological because it's like sensitive for skin, you see. So I tend not to use smelly stuff because it's not. In wash scent booster. I hope that's not destroying the planet. Okay, and then fresh air, all of these sachets and things. So I'll pass you some. Then it goes, here's a gang of coupons, load to give to your mates. £1 off for each product. I know. Brilliant. So there you can all have that. So that was it. I laughed my ass off. That was a good success.
Done really well, Sandra. Oh, your mum done really well for you then.
I know, she's awfully good like that. Some every now and then, so she goes, I'll put you on it, and I like a little something will come through, like a taster of Marmite or something through the letterbox. She's always putting me down for things like this. But
John Howie's listening. John Howie says it's the size of a cooler box, just so for people know.
Oh, yes,
it's massive, as big as Downey's head.
Who's our mate? So that's
our mate who's got a big head.
So there we go. So I was delighted. That was quite funny, really. Great afternoon interpreted for a new client today, 4 hours. So that was fabulous. So win-win.
Brilliant. Well done you. Well done you. I'm trying to think back of what I've done. And I haven't really done anything, I don't think.
Well, you recommended a great book to me, which we'll speak about at the end.
I did recommend a great book. Oh, I tell you what, my success is that I've nearly finished the Rob Iger book, and also, which is amazing, it's the CEO of Disney and how they've changed and how they've taken over things. And I don't know what night it was, and I have a little read before I went to bed, and I was like, oh, because they were just about to take over Pixar, and it did me. I think because I've read the Pixar side of it, so I've read that side of it, and it was just like, oh, and then I had to keep on going. But probably I think that I've had a little chill. I've thought to myself, I'm not going to do anything. And the other success, we've had our boiler fixed because we had no heating.
That must have been horrendous.
That's a big one at the moment.
Yeah, so the heat went off on Thursday, but they came out and fixed it yesterday. Brilliant. Boxed it all off, and now it's roasting. So, massive thank you to John and his team for sorting us out there. Yeah, fantastic. So that is a success for me. Okay, we're going to play this or that. Sam, do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay, I'm going to ask John first. Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Veganuary or dry January?
Oh, this or that. That's a hard one. That.
Wow.
Joe, I'll make a commitment to a dry January. That.
Dry January. What about you, Sam?
Oh, Veganuary, definitely, because it makes you feel so much more healthy. And I don't drink that much anyway, let's face it. So it would be nothing for me to do dry January. So I don't mind.
Are you talking Veganuary with fish?
Okay, well, I was, but I can do Veganuary without a fish, no bother. I just have to be well prepared and have everything, my protein replacements in. That's all.
Well, it always makes me laugh, Sandra, when I heard about this, because I remember my daughter, she was much younger. She came into us one day, she said, I'm a pescatarian. And she said,
I'm a pescatarian.
I'm a pescatarian. Never heard of it before. We sort of both looked at it like this. And she said, so I want no fish. And of course, a pescatarian.
Oh.
She got it really back. She'll kill me for telling you this story. I'm probably in trouble now about it, but we like to remember, because she's such a fussy eater, that we like to remind her about that constantly all the time.
I'm a flexitarian.
You're whatever you feel like when you wake up in the morning, aren't you?
I'm a flexitarian. If I'm on my own, I'm definitely a vegan, but it's when you're feeding other people in the house and things like that, it makes it easier. So there we go.
Yeah.
But I certainly don't. I don't have many meals in the week now at all. And when I'm on my own, I really don't. And it's much better. I feel better for it.
Yes. So I'm doing both this January. So I haven't had a drink, and I'm veganly plant-based anyway. I can't say I'm vegan. I'm plant-based, because if you're vegan, you can't have leather shoes, and I got a leather shoes and a leather bag for Christmas because I just love them.
Lovely.
So yeah, so I'm just going to say that I'm plant-based.
Yeah.
Food-wise. Yeah. Brilliant. Okay, go on, San, your go.
Okay, and because John, you've been on before though, so we have to think very carefully what we're going to say to you. Okay, so training outdoor on New Brighton Beach, and this will come to light later, or training outdoors in Thailand, which will also come to light later.
Oh, you've, Sandra, you put me in a terrible position there, as well you know. Okay, well, I think it'd be evidently just being a liar if I didn't say. I mean, I love Thailand. I love, to be honest with you, I love anywhere that's warm. I don't particularly like the cold. I don't like dark nights. So the thought of being somewhere warm and no dark nights, that sounds really inviting.
Let's visualize that warmth now. Brilliant. Okay. So for me, if I had to pick New Brighton Beach or Thailand, it'd be Thailand.
I'd have bet my house on that, son.
Yeah. Yeah, I spent I've done many walks on New Brighton Beach. Very nice, lovely, but you've lost your coast. I'm sorry. But
yeah, I've never been to Thailand, and you know, it is sort of on my list to go. We should have been going 1 year and it got cancelled. But oh yeah, 100% Thailand. It'd have to be, wouldn't it? In fact, I don't think anybody, maybe, I don't know, 98% of people would say Thailand. I would say on that.
You know, it's such it's a long destination. I think for me, one of the biggest criteria is you two probably too young, but years ago Spain had their own currency with the peseta. And when you went there, you know, you had this discrepancy with regards to what you could buy, because you could buy a lot more, you know. And of course, when the euro came about, that was all gone, because if you had the measure, I know it's dry January, but if you did have a drink, they really just poured it in. And of course, although once you got to Thailand, you've got all that again. You've got that ability, you know, you're eating out, food so cheap, drink so cheap. And the places that you look at are absolutely fantastic. So for me, it's got to be a big yes, you know, for all of those things.
I'm with you on that. Okay. Okay, my one. Voice noting or texting. San.
100% voice noting now for speed, because it's so. I know. And you know what? I'm like super fast because it's efficient. I can be doing something else whilst I'm sending a voice note, and that's what I like. It's so easy. And it's just about, especially in your work, and it's just about, you can say a lot more in 1 minute than you put in big long paragraphs. The person can listen to it when it suits them without having to, like, you know, etc. So that's where I'm at with that at the moment. Well,
I'm shocked. What about you, John?
Oh, voice notes in there, definitely. The thing about it, I just find, you know, when I don't know about you, but that auto text gets on my, I don't know how many times, because I can just squiggle on my keyboard and it writes it, but it never writes what I want, and the intended word that I want never appears there. Like, you know, so I end up horribly frustrated with it. You know,
how many times can you try to type busy and it makes it busty? I know you're so busy at the moment. Well, that happens to me again and again. And the printer thought it was hilarious when I sent it to him. So there we go.
So I'm still a lover of texting. I'm not a lover of the voice noting, because you don't know what the person's going to say. So it depends where you are to listen to it, doesn't it? So, like, you know, like if you're on a text and it's quiet, you can read it, can't you? You know, you can reply.
Yeah, there is that.
If it's a voice note, you're like, and, you know, the people who I know, like you know what I mean? I never know what you're going to say in a voice note.
No,
That's true. That's true. I never thought about that.
you when you don't have headphones in to listen to it. You're absolutely right.
Exactly. So that's it. I'd have to run off and like be on my own. So John Howie's listening. He said everybody's gone all digital and technical. Yes, they have.
It's for efficient working, I think. It's for
I do think it's efficient. I do think it's efficient, but yeah. So Jen, who was my Uncle Ron, yeah. The written word is the best. And I agree with him.
It is when you time things, but just in business in the day, it's dead easy.
Yeah. I agree with him, and I have bought a writing set so that I can send handwritten letters, which was my thing for this year.
Is that your Uncle Ron? Did you say?
Yeah, that's Uncle Ron. Yeah.
You know what? I definitely agree with him on that, because I think there's something about writing, isn't it, that adds to the memory. And the trouble with all these devices, like, even when I'm typing out now, you type, but you don't seem to take it in. But if I write something out, then I take it all far. But I don't know whether you've noticed that, but certainly.
I'm 100% like that, yeah. If I can't read off a screen, I really struggle reading off a screen and typing things. Sandra's very good at it. She does, like, when we're in a meeting, she'll do typing notes. I physically write the notes for me. Because if I type it, it just doesn't sink in for me. I have to write it. I'm the same as you, John, yeah. Right, brilliant. Okay, my one. Oh, no, no, your one, San.
Okay, so my next one, super fast, is contact lenses or glasses. And this is because I've got to get glasses as a matter of urgency, I swear.
Who are you asking, Sandra?
Sorry, go on, John, you go first.
I think because I wear glasses, I'm going to say glasses. And I'm terrible, If I go in the cupboard and I go to get one thing, the cupboard falls out, and I'm forever getting into trouble with that, because I'm obviously quite clumsy when it comes to things like that, So I'm forever getting into it. Put up my hand and said the whole cupboard comes out, like, go, what have I done, So the thoughts of me messing about with a contact lens, it go everywhere, So yeah, definitely.
In 2 seconds for that, yeah. Fair enough. What about you, Hel?
Well, I only wear them for reading and things like that, although I am reading them a little bit more. So definitely glasses for me. But Phil wears contact lenses, and he wears contact lenses all the time. All his glasses, he literally can't see without either. And he sometimes he'll lose his contact lens, and he goes, "Look for it in my eye," and it's like, oh, but it's just like a little piece of cling film now. It's like a little tiny. It's nothing. Musa listening in. Musa says when he's learning, it helps to write.
Yeah, a lot of people feel that way when they write things out. Yeah, again and again.
Are you glasses or contacts, Sam?
Glasses 100%, because when they try, I was like, get away from when they said they do, and I was like, no. And then realistically, mental, because I would just lose them straight away. I picked the dentist, John. I don't like people in my face.
I've not long come back from the day. On Christmas Day, I think it was, I was just chewing something and my back tooth snapped completely. And because you can't do nothing. And unfortunately, I had that. Have you ever done clover oil when you broke your tooth or anything?
Anabesol's the best thing.
The most disgusting stuff ever.
What's that called, Sandra?
Anabesol. I went out with Anabesol, Anabesol. I went out with a lad years ago. And his mother used to swear, and they all the teeth were obviously falling out every other day. I've no idea. But she had loads of this in the house.
In a little tiny jar, isn't it?
Oh, it's amazing. I've got it just in case. It's the best thing. You can't feel your mouth. It's fantastic. But there we go. Yeah, and the best one, I swear by it.
I must remember that, because I was using that. I thought the clover oil was quite good. It doesn't taste very nice, but it does.
Horrible taste, isn't it?
Yeah, it does kill the pain, though.
Okay, my last one. The FA Cup or the Champions League? John?
Well, Champions League, I want to say.
Really? Sam?
The Champions League 100%, because it's international football, which I love, because then that's great for me. So that's the Champions League, hands down.
I'm going to 1,000,000% say the FA Cup. I think the romance of the FA Cup is, and we've had a good FA Cup weekend and week. I just love the FA Cup when you've got, like, giant killers and, all the teams are all mismatched and everything like that. And you go see all the different grounds and all of that. So for me, the romance of the FA Cup.
It gives the underdog a chance, doesn't it?
Yeah. Last one, San.
Okay, last one, audiobook or reading a book, John, which is very appropriate for today.
It is. Okay, this is a difficult one because I don't you think location counts here? To saying if I'm in the car, I'm obviously going. I've got an audio book on, you know. But I do like the feel of a book in my hand. There's no doubt about that, and so I will deal with that. So at home, I had a couple of books that were purchased for me as Christmas presents, you know.
Nice.
And I had a hardback, and I do enjoy that, you know. So if you've got the time, I will open the book and everything. Sorry, Sandra, it's hard for me to come down on that one. Sorry.
No, I know what you mean, because I'm exactly the same. So if I was away on holiday or something like that, and I can sit and read, or I had a weekend to myself and it was all cozy, I would love to sit and read a book. It's great, cover to cover, etc. But because of the way I don't have that and I'm busy a lot, I've been listening to audiobooks for years now. And I absolutely, since about 2016, and I just hammer them all the time and I love it. And I've been listening to one at the moment, which has just been fantastic, which I'll speak about at the end. But I'll speak to you about your audio book as well regarding that. But so for me, audiobooks overall, but I much prefer, if I have time to sit and read a book, is by far the best thing to do. Definitely so. But day to day, it's an audiobook.
So
do you enjoy a novel, Sandra?
Yeah, I used to. Yeah. When I've got time, I love reading.
Right. The best book I've ever read in my life is I Am Pilgrim.
I Am
Pilgrim. It's
Pilgrim,
yeah, by Terry Hayes. Fantastic book.
My favourite novels for me are anything by William Boyd, and probably Any Human Heart is one of the best books I've ever, in modern literature, is one of the best books I've ever read. I just love him. He's such a good author. Just absolutely gripping. So go on, Hel, sorry.
No, I was going to say I'm 100% a book. I read every night, and I've got a big stack of books next to me, and I read them all. And I love the thought of passing a book on. So Audible in the car. I've only just sort of got into it. I've just sort of got into podcasts, and I've just managed to be able to download Audible. So I've listened to a couple of books on Audible. But for me, to read the book and say this is amazing and pass it on to somebody is like a massive gift.
That's a great point, that, Helen. That's a really good point. Really good point. There's a lot of truth in that. You do enjoy passing the book on and being able to explain to this is a great read. You know, I love the Jack Reacher novels. Like, you know, we make passing between one another, and you're absolutely right. So yeah, this is a great one. You're going to enjoy this type of thing. You know.
And also, Waterstones is one of the best shops in Liverpool, anyway.
Waterstones
my daughter's in there all the time.
Yeah, it's brilliant. You're absolutely right, Helen. But you still pass books on because you talk to me about books, and then I just take Helen's recommendation now, and I just listen to them on Audible. So you sort of are still given that gift as well.
Yeah. Okay, Sam, do you want to introduce John?
On, yes. Yeah. Well, John is amazing. I've known him for quite a few years now, I'd say. And for those who don't know, he has been on once before a long time ago. A massive property business, which he sold, a very successful estate agent, etc. For commercial properties. He's been in accountancy. He's one of the most knowledgeable people going. What a lot of people don't know, he did allude to it last time and spoke about it briefly, he was an international champion Thai kickboxer, as you do, which is why I said about training in Thailand. And he's been running a scheme that he does this thing now, Pain Point Coach. And the reason why I said about boxing and training on the beach is he does a thing in New Brighton, which he'll speak about. But also very topical for this evening is he's written a book, which I want you to speak about. So, John, you have got plenty of time to talk to us about your book, what it's about, why we should read it, etc., and anything else you've got going on in your life at the moment that you want to share with us all. And because you're not just successful yourself, you help other people be successful too. So take it away.
Thank you, Sandra, and thank you, Helen. I should really say I am very grateful on the period for taking your time out in a timely fashion to bring me on the second occasion. So I want to show my gratitude and thank you both for doing that. So yeah, the book is called, if I can see it there.
That's
Yeah.
it.
Find
That's
your
it.
flow, take the path of mastery. And I'll just one more time.
We'll share a
I'm
link.
going to put the link in the comments, and then people can.
Brilliant. And so the book is a self-development tool. That's essentially what it's about. It's, I suppose, anything when you can get to a certain age in life, and you can help you through your experience. If you can take your 30 years or 40 years of experience, and you can share that, what you're hoping to do is give somebody the ability to avoid all your mistakes, so they can, if they can sort of really progress forward. And I think that's essentially what it's about. But the book itself it's about finding flow, and there's the book explains what flow is, how to achieve flow, and it gives experiences of other people that have experienced flow, and that's in lots of different fields, whether that's being musicians or people within sport. They've explained it. So I think probably the best thing I could do is quickly what is flow, so people get a better idea from it. And I don't know if you remember an actress called Joyce Grenfell. She appeared in the 1950s, sort of St. Trinian's movies, a lot with Alistair Sim, black and white movies,
of course.
films as they were called then, And Joyce Grenfell had a fantastic saying. She would say, there is no such thing as the pursuit of happiness, but there is the discovery of joy. And for me, that's exactly what flow is about. It's about finding intrinsic value in something that you do. And it becomes so enriching to you that you find a lot of joy, a great reward by doing it. And that's essentially, for me, what flow is about. I speak to a lot of people, especially when in business, because we'll often talk about people's business experience, and I speak to a lot of very successful people that have been in business. And when you get talking to them, a lot of people talk about earning money, getting career progression, and then as they get older, some people then begin to talk about perhaps a gap, something missing in their life, something in which they're not quite fulfilled, and something that's not quite fitting that. So they have a great career, but there's something not quite hitting home for them. They feel like there's something missing in life. What flow is about, it's about finding what that missing piece is in your life. Most people have experienced it, but we've forgotten how to actually achieve it. And that's exactly what the book does. It explains to you how to find flow. Do you want me to carry on? I can carry on.
Yeah. So it's about.
I'm riveted because I must be honest. You called it find flow, but I've never known what you meant by it. I'm listening intently. Sorry, you're probably not used to being interrupted by us. We were both like that.
So, when you were talking about sports people, John, sorry, when you were talking about sports people being in the flow and things like that, I've always sort of been described where when you're in your flow is like when you're at your absolute best, and it looks like so say Johnny Wilkinson, for instance, he did this little thing and he steps up and he takes the goal and everybody goes, oh, he's in his flow, because he hits it every time. But what they don't realize is he practiced. He used to kick 100 goals after every practice, and if he missed one, he went back to zero until he'd kicked 100 goals. So everybody says like, oh, he's dead good at that. Well, he's practiced forever, and it's a bit like what you're saying is you're in your flow because of what you've learned and because of your skills, and it takes a lot to get yourself in the flow, doesn't it?
You're absolutely right. What you're talking about is mastery. You become so good at something that people look upon what you're doing in awe because they realize you put a tremendous amount of hard work into it. But the way that you exhibit or demonstrate what you're doing, you make it look easy. And people realize the complexity in what you're doing, but you make it look easy. And that comes from constant practice. And that's exactly what flow is. It's that ability. It's that ability, for instance, and when I say we've all done it, so let's take, for instance, when a child learns to walk. No one goes up to this child with a laptop or a book and a diagram and saying, well, this is the way we do it and this is the way we want to do it. The question is, how does the child learn? Well, the child learns by getting up and doing it. Exactly. That's how the child learns. It learns through failure and then able to progress and to be able to walk. So we've all experienced this. But just something happens in the education process that we forget that integrated learning about what we've done and how we had the nuances in the way that we moved, or when the guy was getting ready to what's his name again?
Johnny Wilkinson.
Johnny Wilkinson. Of course, I remember that game. About 2005.
2005 World Cup, 9 seconds.
I remember that. It distinctly was scary. It was 18 years ago. But, he went back because he realised in his gut instinctively whether it felt right or it felt wrong. He knew the nuances and he was able to unpack it, dismantle it, put it back together and say, that was wrong because of this. And he did it all subconsciously without an explanation. Now, we have that capacity. Something happens in school and we take that away. We take that away from kids, but we have that capacity. But here's the thing. If you're looking at the step, if you're looking at the kick and saying, it's a great kick, you're right, but you're missing so much. And what you're missing is really what it's all about, is this. Johnny Wilkinson, or the child's walking, has desire and belief. Mm-hmm. They have desire and belief to achieve something. And it's ingrained in the child. When you think about it, it's incredible. It's already there. You have the desire and the belief. That's what we call that mindset now. We have that mindset to get up and to do it. For something in the education process, we take that away. We take that integrated learning away. What my book is about, it's a reawakening of that process. It shows you how to find flow, and then this explains to you how you can find flow in your own life through movement and the integration of learning, by unpacking those movements and reassembling it and putting it back together for yourself. So it makes sense. It feels right in your gut for when you perform. And of course, that leads to confidence, doesn't it?
So where did sorry, go on, Sam.
I'm going to hijack. Well, don't forget what you were going to say, because just to make a comment.
Do this.
Because John and I have spoken about this years ago when I spoke about education and movement, which is everything you believe in as well. And, we're all on the same page with this massively. But what you're saying, it's exactly the same with the language, because you learn it, like you use the analogy of a baby. They're listening, they're saying blah, 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 blah. They make loads of mistakes, they say it wrong, we laugh, whatever. And they just keep going. And ideally, they talk by a certain age fairly well. And they get better and better as they get older, and they practice, even pronunciation of certain words in your own language, etc. And that is exactly how we do it. And then something doesn't sound right. So we know not to say, that doesn't sound right. Oh, no, what? I'll fix it. It's exactly the same way you're talking about learning a new physical skill. So walking, then mastering something like you've done, for example, or like Helen's done with her various sports, etc. But it's the same with speaking. And when you learn a new language, it's exactly the same. And after a while, you go, it doesn't sound right. And someone will say, I'll look something up and go, no, that's not the right word. And I'll find it and I go, that's it, I know it is. And that just comes with time, practice, experience. And it's the same when you become sort of, very competent at anything, really. You're absolutely right. But the best way to retain it is in conversation, because when you've used it practically, not reading it, but spoken it and heard a response, etc. Or like me, when I was younger, said something and everyone's burst out laughing, it's wrong and you don't say that again. So you're absolutely right. Sorry, Helen, what were you going to say then? You had a question.
No, so I was going to say, you practice this, John. You sort of practice the flow, and you massively believe in it. Where did the idea for putting it in a book and sharing it with others come from?
Well, I've thought about this quite a lot. I can remember the first time. I'll start off a few years back. Do you know when I sold my business? I felt too young to sort of sit down, put my slippers up and do nothing. I've always been quite active. And and I wanted to do something. I took a phone call from the Netherlands, a girl in Amsterdam that run a program called Mind 5. She said, I've got a great program. Why don't you come over here, spend a couple of weeks over here, and you'll really enjoy it and you'll learn something about our program. And I went over there, and it was all about what we taught experiential learning. And she introduced me to someone called, which I've never heard of, a guy called Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. I'll try and say that a few times, especially after the drink. Good job it's try January. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. He's a Hungarian psychologist who wrote about the flow state. And as soon as she started explaining what it was all about, I recognized it straight away because I knew I had experienced it. So it really resonated with me in a strong way. And I suddenly realized there was possibly far more to it than she alluded to because of my experience on sport and putting it through, you know. And I think later on in life, you look back and you suddenly realize, when I look back and I felt like I was making good decisions, and they were decisions purely based on the fact that I'd become so practiced in what I was doing, I felt competent. And that when I ignored my gut feeling, or, you know, your intuition, which is what you were talking about, Sandra. So when I ignored my gut feeling, my intuition, I made bad decisions. But when I was relying on something that I'd become so practiced in, the decision became easy and I made good decisions. So I was looking back on this, and I suddenly came to realize that there was a time whereby I first experienced flow and I recognized it. But I think also when you talked about mindset before, there has to be something that changes the way you feel. Something I was talking about you have successful people, but they can feel unfulfilled. There's something there that suddenly realized something in my life has to change. And as I look back at my life now, I had that experience very young. I mean, I was doing about 17 or 18. And what it was, I want to take you back to the end of the 70s and 1980s. You probably won't remember this. And do you remember what Liverpool was like then in the 1970s, 1980s? Well, I just want to sort of quickly recap for you. Just remember that there were none of these restaurants, bistros, gym bars that you see now. And there might have been pubs, but you must remember that pubs could open at 11:30 to 2 o'clock and then closed again. Then opened again at 4:30, closed at 10:30. That was it. And if you went in for a meal, you might go to Ploughman's. It was called a Ploughman's lunch, which was a bit of cheese, a sort of cracker, and a pickled, and that was it. That was our cuisine. You don't realize what it was like. And one of the things we used to do, or one of the things that really opened my eyes, is that we used to travel from Lime Street to compete. So I'd be boxing that day in London. So we'd get the train from Lime Street to go to Euston Station. 6.5 hours. You don't realize it. 6.5. Can you imagine? We were shattered by the time we got there. We were like this because we had all this traveling to do. 6.5 hours. There would have been my brother, Gary Harwood, Albie Bimson. He runs a kickboxing gym still in Liverpool around Wavertree. There would have been a gang of us that would be going down to London. And of course, then there was first class, second class, third class. We'd be on the third class because it's all we could afford on these long benches and clunking along on the rail. 6.5 hours. And of course, when I got to London, I was expecting it to be what I was used to in Liverpool. But when I opened and suddenly got there, the thing that hit me was that all the bars, the restaurants, and they weren't gym bars then, they were wine bars. What you wanted to do, you wanted to go to the wine bar, But people were spending money. There's gregarious. They were loud. They were laughing. They were in suits. And I remember looking at that. I just couldn't get over it. It was a real eye-opening experience for me. I couldn't get over the difference from what I'd seen and what I was used to. Where people were, let's face it, what I was used to was that we went to school. After school, we got a job. We stayed there for 35 years. We might have got married and that did, but that was essentially it. And when I seen this, I suddenly realized, no, life, it doesn't have to be like that. It can be completely different, So I remember making that decision there, and then I said, I want to make a change in my life. I want to make a big, big change. I don't want to live my life like this. I want to be those guys that can afford to have a meal in the afternoon and go to the bar. I mean, how can I do that? You know, and I kept thinking to myself, how was I going to do that? You know, because I had absolutely nothing. You know, it's like you go out for a drink with the guys or whatever, like, you know, you buy one drink and you just sit there the rest of the bar on all night because you just couldn't afford it. You know, I remember spending many a night in the Grafton. like that, you know, just didn't have 2 pennies to put together. And of course, this opened my eyes were really opened when I saw this.
Yeah.
And we started mixing with. There was a guy there called Dave Lee from London. He sadly recently passed away, but he used to do a lot of movies. And in the movies, he'd do the stunts and actors, like, you know. So he'd have all these people that turn up. It's where Subs from Madness used to turn up. Now, every time I competed, but he used to invite me into his private area, buy me a drink and everything like that. You know, I wish I could, as an older man, I wish I could have spoken to him then, you know, but I used to think to myself, what does this guy want to know me for? Like, you know, there didn't seem any reason. But what I didn't realise, Subs from Madness had been brought up in Liverpool. Yeah, I only found that out later myself. It'd been in a children's home in Liverpool, so maybe there was something there. But it was very nice. We met a lot of different people. But when we went down there, we did really well. We were wiping the floor with everywhere that we went. We were really successful. So I decided there and then that my breakthrough was going to be through committing to my practice and trying to become good at what I was doing. So back at Johnny Wilkinson, when he was looking and he was taking his kick, he was prepared that once he took all the learning chunks and something didn't feel right, was to unpack it and reassemble them in a different way, maybe a different approach, different slightly angle, until he got it right. And you've got to be told that your coach may coach you in a certain way. It might be great for their body type, but what you have to do is that once you've got to a certain standard, is be able to unpack it and put it together for your body type and make it work for you. And I had this sudden, it was such an explosion of learning, of a way of putting it together, but above all, improving and getting progress. And for me, joy in what you do in your life is about progress. Joy equals progress. That's it. Do you know, if you've got progress in your life, you're experiencing joy. And when you don't experience joy, it's because you feel like you're treading water and you're having difficulty in pushing.
Yeah, absolutely true.
Wow.
Brilliant. So your book then that you've written, so are you setting people on the path to achieve their flow or inspiring them? Who would you recommend the book for?
For people that want to make that change, you've made the decision that something's missing in your life. And the reality of it is this, is that it's often within you. And that's the point. It's not without you. You know, it's not somewhere else. It's not this far, right? It's not in Thailand. It's not elsewhere. It's within you. Yeah. And it's about discovering about what it is that's within you. What skill, what talent do you have that you can do exceptionally well, that you can bring all your talents to bear, challenge yourself at the same time, but feel as if you're constantly improving. That is the be in flow. What the book does is that because we've forgotten what integrated learning is, because they knock it out of us in school, because we've forgotten how to do that, I give you 3 simple exercises to show you how you can become competent. And in these exercises, what they're using all your limbs in non-simultaneous movements. It seems a bit sort of clunky and awkward at first, but the more you do, the better you're going to become at it. And that's the idea. That's the breakthrough moment. And it's not hard. It's not physically exhausting. But the idea is it makes you think and it makes you put it together so it works for you. So I show you in these 3 simple exercises that you can do. Once you've achieved the 3 separate exercises, we're looking at you with regards to how you can build it into your life and what you do within your life. Mm-hmm. So that's the self-development side of it. And I've done that because I built this cycle. I've called it the flow learning cycle. You're an educationalist, so you know about David Kolb's experiential learning cycle. So I was thinking to myself, well, you know, I want to call this now the flow learning cycle. And it just seemed to really fit in, you know. So I've created this cycle that people can follow this formula to help them achieve flow. And that's essentially what the book's about. But it also gives classic examples of people within Merseyside. So I'm going to quote two of them now, because these are Liverpool people. And the first one I want to talk about is a guy called Mike Davenport, who was a guitarist from a band called Nuts, N-U-T-Z. Now, they went on the old grey whistle test, used to support, Led Zeppelin, Queen, one of these bands that really nearly made it, just a step away. And this guy was compared with Eric Clapton. What he talks about when he only lives in McCall as well. What he talks about is that he did free flow on his guitar. When the singer was sort of losing his voice, and he just plays, and you lose yourself in the fluidity of the guitar playing. So he explains that how he experienced it. And then there's another guy Frank Brennan, from the very famous Red Triangle Shotokan Karate Club in Liverpool. And I remember as a younger man seeing Frank compete myself. Great explosive power, absolutely fantastic technique. He was a phenomenon. He was so. I think for me, it's when I still get because often people say to me now, John, why'd you bother at your age? And I must admit, I went through my late 30s and my 40s. I went through that. Fortunately, I've got a Bob. And Bob's the type of guy who always phones me up and says, I always say everyone needs a Bob. He always phone me up and say, you're training, John, come on, going to go training, type of thing. And I think everybody needs one of them. But he motivates you, and he says, you'll be glad of it you've done. And I'll tell you what it was for me, that even though I'm getting on, the ability to execute what you're doing and think about your technique and do exactly the same exercises means that what I'm trying to do is improve every day. Now, it's not about a punch. It's not about the kick. The mindset is in looking for the improvements and seeing yourself internally develop. And these guys are talking about it. They're talking about their experiences of the way they experienced it. So hopefully you can start to put it all together. And yourself, to learn, you've got to do it. That's it. You've got to experience. You have to do.
Definitely. Fantastic.
And I think it's what you said, Sandra, isn't it? When you're learning a language, and it's doing it every day. And that's why, as part of Chatterfit, you get the do 10 minutes every day, because 10 minutes achievable, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, John, in order to buy your book, then, so you've got your launch at the end of the month, and that's you can probably only invite so many, can you, because of the venue, etc., I imagine. So that's the 24th of this month, isn't it?
The 24th of January in the Bridewell in Liverpool, starting at 5:30 in the evening. What I want to do is looking for the link, which I can then send over to you.
Okay, if you send
and
it,
you can put it in your. So it's Joel from Ubiquity. He's doing it. So it's one of his events. So I'm going to send that to you now, Sandra.
Brilliant. Okay, you can share that, because he did a brilliant. We went to Natalie Billingby's book launch, which he organised, and it was a great event.
Oh, I was there because I seen you there.
Right.
It was. I thought Natalie did a fantastic event, and I've learned an awful lot from that. What I liked about Natalie is that, and I thought she did it extremely well. It wasn't just about her. She brought other people, got other people involved, and I learned a lot from that. And I said to Joe, that's exactly what I want to do. I want to. So some of the beach boxers will be there, and they're going to be taking people on pads. Because let's face it, most people want to have a little go and say, "Let me have a little go," and then they're going to have some kickboxers there who'll say, "Look, we've got to do properly. You can come over there and have a little go and smash the pads." There's going to be an international rugby star that's going to be giving a talk on his experience on.
I'm teaching. I need to get out of that.
You need to come teach from there.
Oh, I've got me munchkins.
Bring the class, Sandra.
Bring the kids. It's a good event for them to go.
You know what? I'm not just saying it. I know it sounds like a cheap shot. Is that Joel said to the tickets that he put out initially have gone. So it's already been subscribed. He said he spoke to the Bridewell and he's allowed them to put in more. So he's just put more out. And we're a couple of weeks from it. So they do seem to be going fast. So if anybody does want to go and experience and have a little go, and it's been sponsored by the BIPC, you know, Geraldine?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's sponsored by them. So there's a buffet on and there's a drink upon arrival. So it's, you know, it's standing up to be a really good event.
Brilliant. Oh, it's so. How can people buy the book then? So how's sharing the link and what else? Is there a specific...
Well, it's on Amazon. Find Your Flow, take the path of mastery. It's on Amazon. Or the other obvious thing is to turn up on the night, and I will have some copies available to me on that night, and you can buy them direct if that's something you'd like to do. But what I will do as well, because you make a good point, is I'll share that link for you as well. So what I've done is I've shared the link for Joel and his Connected event. But I'll share the link for the book as well, and that way you've got that link as well.
Yeah, fantastic. And we'll share them on our page and everything like that. I just want you to sign my book. I'm a little bit of I like people to sign the book.
Well, so I would love to sign it.
So we'll be at the event and you can sign the book.
How much is the book, John? How much does it retail?
$10.99, but there's a Kindle version as well, which is $5.99.
Brilliant. And a lot of people use the Kindles now. That's fantastic. And you know, it's a lot of money to change your life, is it? Wonderful.
No. Not really. And I think, you know, there's something about the transaction, you know, and when you're willing to pay for something, you're more inclined to do it. I think so. There is something important in that side of things.
But it's cheaper than a glass of wine in that wine bar in London.
A lot cheaper.
Yeah, well, Joe, I have to think about that as well, you know, because, you know, the average wage in Liverpool then about 1979, 1980 would have been £30 a week. So, and I was thinking, you know, how much would we have paid probably 70, 80 pence for a pint or a drink or something like that, you know?
Yeah. Brilliant. Well, thank you, John, for sharing your story with us, and we wish you the very best of luck, and we know that you're going to be super successful. And if it enables people to find their flow, then what an amazing thing, you know, to pass on.
I'm definitely going to get that book.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely. Okay, we're moving on to red face. Slightly embarrassing that's happened. I know Sandra's got one.
I think I'm on a roll now because I didn't have any. So I got a brand new, this wasn't in front of anybody, but it was just stupid. So I thought my toothbrush looks dreadful. So I got a brand new toothbrush out this morning, dropped it in the toilet as it was flushing, and I was like that. And it's flushing. So what you do, because you don't want it to block the toilet, you put your hand in straight away, grab it out, because I was worried it had damaged the toilet, obviously. And then you're like, but it was flushed. But I thought, oh my God. Only I would just open it in the toilet, out it all in 2 seconds. But I thought, unbelievable. So there we go.
In the dishwasher?
Well, yes.
You used to do God Bless My Food, and you were all right, weren't you, when you were little?
It was a flaw. But yeah, so that was that really today.
Brilliant. Well done. John, have you got anything slightly embarrassing, a red face moment?
I suppose I did something this Christmas that I've never done in my near 60 years now. And I actually, the last couple of years, been out with a gang of lads from Liverpool 9. And the year before, we all dressed up in the squid tops.
Yeah.
Not ridiculous, like, these turquoise tops, but this year, it was Christmas jumpers, and I actually wore a Christmas jumper for the very first time in my life. Never worn one before, but I done
it. That's that.
It'd be embarrassing if you were the only one who had the Christmas jumper, wouldn't it? Quick shout out to the grown-ups, any grown-ups who've done amazing things. I'm going to shout out to Rachel Furnival, who's my cousin, who has just finished on Ward 22 in ain't she? So she was a student nurse during the pandemic, and she ended up going and working and she actually worked on the COVID ward, and then she stayed working, and she's just done amazing. So good luck to her wherever she's going to next. She's just amazing, and she worked on Christmas Day as well. And they went around and gave all the patients a present and things like that. So they made the best of what they could for the people who were in the ward. So yeah, super proud of you. Well done.
And working Christmas Day as well, as you say, you know.
Yeah.
Okay. What about you, John?
Tubes.
Well, I don't think I've done anything as giving as that. You know, I mean that's a hell of a.
Any adults you'd like to give a shout out to? Any grown-ups you'd like to give a mention to?
Well, obviously there's. You know, I think what I'll do, give a real grown-ups, is that the help I've had in the beach boxing class, because everyone in that class is probably 30 years and older. You know, I'm probably the oldest there, but be true, but there are other people there as well. And, you know, they all make a commitment, but not only do they make a commitment to turn up, they help out as well. So, for instance, I'm not great when it comes to technology. We have people that were designing flyers for this evening for the evening, and they took their time out to do it. So, you know, I'd like to thank them for giving their time to help out.
Well done. I've got a quick one, and I'm dead impressed by this, and it's a business thing. Sam Benson has designed an app in Southport. So when you're ordering off Uber Eats and people like that, they take a load off the business, that the businesses, and you know, your margin on food isn't great anyway in a lot of cases with the rates these businesses got to pay, everything they've been through the pandemic. He's designed an app called Southport Eats. So in Southport, it means that outlets are making an extra £1.56 on it. That's how saving there. So it's thousands. So if you are up in Southport and you feel the need to order food to your house, I would go to Southport Eats first rather than a competitor.
That's a great idea.
Great idea. Go the venue yourself.
Yeah, it's better to support somebody that's local, isn't it? Far better.
An independent, definitely.
Definitely. And if you can, use cash, because there was a big thing that somebody put up about the bank charges.
Oh, it was Bernadette Brome. It was Mike Brome's wife, who has the two cafes, Bernie's Deli and Bernie's Deli 2. And she said that the charges, their monthly bill of charges they were paying is horrendous for everyone paying on. And they used to only take cash, and then they put in the card machine and that. And it was awful, actually. It was shocking what they're paying out. So she said, you know, this is why we want cash, because this is what we're paying out in charges. You know, it's awful, isn't it? But then some of the banks charge you for putting cash in as well. So
definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got a new little segment. Okay, and we normally have a positive challenge or a skill share, and we've merged them together, twisted it around a little bit, and a bit of, you know, the reason why you're on, John, was about your book and stuff. We're going to do sort of like a little book review podcast. What are you listening to now, and what can you share with people? And it's about being successful. So what successes can you share and pass on to somebody else? So San, I'm going to let you go first.
Okay, so I'm ecstatic because you've been going on to me for ages about the High Five Habit by Mel Robbins. So I finally had some other stuff I was listening to stacked up. So I listened to the High Five Habit this week, most of Sunday, while I was doing jobs, you see, and everything. It was absolutely brilliant. I can't recommend it enough. And this is how good she is. She's read it and it's on YouTube. She said, if you can't afford to buy it or listen to it on Audible, you can listen to it for free on YouTube. So Mel Robbins, High Five Habit, absolutely brilliant. So, and I'm doing the 5-day challenge with it now. So thank you for recommending that. I would wholeheartedly recommend that to anyone.
Brilliant. And it's all backed up by science.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Yeah. What about you, John?
Well, I think, you know, I'm very proud of the book that I've written here, right? But I what I do, I've got some knowledge to people that help me. And you know, because to be honest with you, two of them made me sound intelligent when I should read this book, you know, and that's not an easy job to do, you know. So there was a guy called Eric Martin from My Planet.
Oh yes, I know Eric. Yeah,
you know Eric. He was absolutely great, and you know, you know, I'd start off and he'd turn everything upside down. And then there was a lovely lady called Ros Andrews, who was so particular over the editorial of the book, checking facts out and putting it together. And then she would not just chapters, but she'd take lines and change them around. And it'd be better making this point here and things like that, you know. And when I read it, I thought, it was a bloody good read. This, like, you know. So, I mean, Eric, in fairness, he made me see, you know, he said to me, John, when I read it, he said it was the stories that I really was interested in. And it suddenly make you realise, you know, so I've got to thank Eric and Ros for really helping me out and to produce a good product, because without them, I just couldn't have done it.
But I'm really looking forward to reading
I'm really looking forward to that. I'm like Sandra, I've just done the High Five Habit, Mel Robbins. I'm now actually listening to Upstream by Dan Heath, which is phenomenal. And it just blows your mind when you listen to it. And I'm reading the Rob Iger book, The CEO of Disney, which is brilliant. So we'll share. I think we're going to share all of our what we're listening to and things like that. And if anybody wants to get involved, we'll do like a little session every week about it. So brilliant. I want to say a massive thank you to John for joining us. Wish it every success. We know it's going to be great. Massive thank you to Sandra as always. And John, what's your closing quote?
My closing quote. All right. Can I take something from the book?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so I'm going to, in the introduction, I say, what have I told you that you could become twice as productive if you knew how to tap into something that's already inside of you? That's pretty exciting, right? Well, your life's about to change in a major way. It's time for you to learn more about flow. So,
well, if that doesn't entice someone to read it, I don't know what will.
That was like an EastEnders cliffhanger, wasn't it?
What's next? Love it. Brilliant. Well done.
Brilliant. Thank you, John. And we'll see everybody next week. Have a great week, everyone.
Thank you so much, ladies. Much appreciated.